How's it going? I'm Bradley with All Access Sports, bringing you our Week 2 sleepers, studs, and stacks, and we're going to get into it, giving you those high dollar guys, those guys under $5,500, and the best stacks that you can have going into Week 2's main slate. I'm still feeling a little under the weather, but real quick, take a look at what we did last week. In the video last week, we gave you Trevor Lawrence, Austin Eckler, Tyreek Hill, and Keenan Allen all together. Those guys alone accounted for 120 points, which meant you were basically cashing. And those are just a couple of the names that we talked about. Yes, we did have a couple of misses, but who didn't? We only want to talk about the positives. So as always, give a thumbs up to the video for good luck. Don't forget you have a 10% better chance of cashing this week in Draftkings just for giving a like to the video. Subscribe so you never miss one. And stick around until the end to find out how you can win your Millionaire Maker ticket for free next week.
This is All Access, your home for fantasy sports talk.
As always, we start with the sleepers. Again, these are guys under $5,500 that we think you can put into your lineup, save some money, and you can go get those high-priced guys, the Christian McCaffreys, the Justin Jeffersons of the world. As usual, I don't like to pay down for my quarterback. Some people do want to be a little bit obscure, a little bit different. So if you're absolutely looking at someone under $5,500, if I had to rank these guys, I would start with Jordan Love, who did put up 23 points last week against Chicago, now gets an Atlanta Falcons defense who played pretty well against my Carolina Panthers. I don't think they were great. I think Bryce Young made some mistakes to make them look better than they are. If Aaron Jones is out, that's going to hurt that offense, but it also means he's going to have to spread the ball to some of these other receivers. Not that Aaron Jones is a receiver, but you know what I'm saying. Baker Mayfield against those same Chicago Bears. Yeah, I don't know what snapped into him, but that guy, did you hear the trash talk? Get your weight up, son. Baker Mayfield may be back. Okay, let me stop myself. This medicine has me thinking differently. No matter how good you think Tampa Bay is, this is a game that they still are capable of winning because of that defense. Baker Mayfield still probably has the best weapons out of everyone down here. Just to peek a little bit above our threshold, Geno Smith at $5,900 didn't get it going last week. I believe it was only 115 yards. He should be able to get it done against the Detroit Lions, who are probably going to be without Branch. I believe the latest report said that he was not going to be there. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Running backs under $5,500, and I think that there is a tremendous amount of value for running backs. Usually it's the wide receivers we say there's a ton of value for. I think this week the running back position has a ton of things that you can exploit. Tyler Allgeier, I think he's going to be a very popular pick. I don't know if that share that he had from week 1 is going to be there again, especially around the red zone area, but it's a very viable option against one of the worst rushing defenses in the league in the Green Bay Packers. Allgeier was extremely productive in the amount of touches that he had last week, 15 rushing attempts. He only had 3 receptions for 19 yards, but he did have 2 touchdowns on the ground. Maybe now that they've eased Bijan Robinson into the system and into the NFL, maybe they go ahead and work him a little bit harder. But regardless, Tyler Allgeier, even if you take away a couple of these attempts at only $5,500, if you're going to be getting 20 points out of him again, I think that's a slam dunk. Right there with him, Rachaad White. I talked about the Buccaneers earlier. I think this is a game that they can win against Chicago. We saw Green Bay's running backs had some success against Chicago last week. He had 19 carries, wasn't extremely productive, but who else do they have to feed the ball to? It's Rachaad White or bust in that backfield. If you're looking at a guy that's $5,500 and he fits your lineup, it might be worth a shot, but there is better value out there. Do you really need me to sell you on the hype of Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Melvin Gordon going into this week? We don't know how that backfield is going to shake out exactly. Justice Hill did get the 2 touchdowns, so he got the goal line looks. So take your shot at Gus Edwards at $5,300 against the Cincinnati Bengals defense, or you can save about $400 and get Justice Hill, who again got the same amount of touches as Gus Edwards, not as productive yards per touch, but again, got the 2 touchdowns. And those are king. Joshua Kelly. Obviously, we're not going to be the only ones talking about him, especially with Austin Eckler missing time. Now, he missed time because of an unfortunate death within his management community. And he had a little bit of a high ankle sprain, so it looks like he might not be playing. If so, that's Joshua Kelly, who looked very good week 1. Shout out to everyone who watched our best ball drafts and told you Josh Kelly might be one of the best handcuffs in the league, and he was going undrafted in Draftkings best ball. There's too many weapons on the outside to be worried about. Joshua Kelly should have some room to operate on the inside. Plus, they're going to be playing from ahead. Joshua Kelly at $5,000 as a starter is an absolute smash. Wide receivers under $5,500. DJ Moore, I'm interested in it. I don't think anyone else is going to be playing on it because he saw such little volume in week 1, but I do not love that play. Courtland Sutton. Now, I know we talked about him last week, got him 13 points, but it was kind of a floor game for him, right? 5 targets, 32 yards, and a touchdown. Without Jerry Jeudy, that's what you can expect from Courtland Sutton most weeks. Our goal is to always get 3 to 4 times our points per $1,000. So at $5,400, we're going to want to get approximately 15 to 20 points. If his floor game is 13, they're playing against Washington, who is a little bit weak on the corners. Keep Russell Wilson clean, keep him upright, and Courtland Sutton should have a couple more touches in this game. Conversely, on the opposite side of the ball in this game, Jacoby Myers put up 29 points last week. Jahan Dotson will get that same cornerback. So the same game where Jacoby Myers had 2 touchdowns for 75 yards, Jahan Dotson is now going to step into that role. At less than $5,000, you're going to get a guy who saw 7 targets week 1. Everyone's been preaching all offseason that Jahan Dotson is going to be an excellent wide receiver this year. He's a breakout candidate. If so, show it this week. At $4,900, it is absolutely worth a dart throw for you in a game that might not be the highest scoring game, but if you look at what Jacoby Myers did last week, there's no reason Jahan Dotson couldn't at least replicate or come close to those kinds of numbers, targets, and yardage. A lot of people have been talking about Puka Nacua all week. Unfortunately, we're not sure if he's going to go, dealing with a little bit of an injury. Obviously, if he does play, there is some interest on my half and your behalf. They are going against San Francisco. They'll be playing from behind, but it is a tough defense. A couple more wide receivers, and we're going to start things off with the Houston Texans, guys. Nico Collins, 11 targets last week. Robert Woods, 10 targets last week. Now they get an Indianapolis Colts defense that's not as good as they were last year, losing guys like Stephon Gilmore, and they just got torched by Calvin Ridley last week. Nico Collins looks to be the priority in that offense, passing at least, and then Robert Woods secondarily. 6 catches on 11 targets, 80 yards, a little bit more of the big play kind of guy in this one. You kind of expect that with Robert Woods kind of getting up there in age. Nico Collins should be able to replicate those kinds of numbers this week. Again, $4,800, so we'll just round up and say $5,000. 3 times that value would be 15 points. We're kind of there on a week that I would assume we kind of expect. I like this play at $4,800. It saves you some serious cash to get a wide receiver 1 in a game that could have a little bit of back and forth against the Colts. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I believe he only had 5 targets. Yeah, 5 targets week 1. Again, that offense was lackluster. No one had any success except for DK Metcalf. 5 targets, 3 receptions out of the slot. You're going up against Detroit, who, if they struggle, it is going to be in the passing game. JSN is a little bit of a matchup nightmare for the Lions, who are probably going to have to put a linebacker on him, and I don't know if Anzalone or Jack Campbell is going to be able to keep up with his speed. So I can see some real success from him this week. It's really encouraging to see exactly what he was able to do just so freshly off of his wrist surgery. I might wait a week to see a little bit more out of him, see how this offense is going to shake down, but hey, at $4,500, it might be worth your risk. Lastly, Rashee Rice in what is expected to be the highest scoring game on the slate, the Chiefs versus the Jaguars. 5 targets last week. Obviously, if Travis Kelce comes back, that's going to eat into that immensely. That's 15 targets that are going to be going the way of the tight end that you're going to take away from the wide receivers last week. MVS only got a couple of looks. Sky Moore only had, I believe, 3 looks, 0 catches. Kadarius Toney, 5 targets, 1 reception, just a bunch of drops. Rashee Rice might be Patrick Mahomes' most trusted target coming out of week 1. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays out. Again, $3,800. That depth chart with the wide receivers, it feels like every single week is all over the place. I don't love the play, but if you're grasping at straws for where to spend your last $3,800, maybe you go Rashee Rice. Tight ends, per usual, if it's not Travis Kelce, I'm not paying up for my tight end. If Kelsey's healthy, we'll probably be playing him. Now, the separation between the highest $5,500 guys and a $3,000 guy, if you can pick it correctly, really, there is no separation. Here's your highest scoring tight ends from week 1. Hunter Henry, low priced. Hayden Hurst, $3,000. TJ Hawkinson, he was priced up. Donald Parham, who was behind Gerald Everett as tight end 2, he was in there. Evan Ingram, Cole Kmet, Blake Bell, Sam Laporta was down there at the $3,000, $3,500 range. Zach Ertz was probably one of the most expensive ones we've come across. And then Luke Musgrave, who we highlighted, under $3,000. You can save some real money and still have suitable production. So I don't like paying up, so who am I paying down for this week? I'm looking at Sam Laporta. I know, $3,900. It's probably a little bit more expensive than I like to pay. 5 targets week 1. He's going to be more involved in the passing game week 2. It's a little bit of a softer Seattle Seahawks defense, and I think this game is going to be a run up and run down kind of game. It's projected to be the second highest scoring game by Vegas odds, so if he's able to sniff into the end zone, he can just fall forward and he can get us some real points. At only $3,900, I'd like to take my chance on that. Zach Ertz was a volume hog week 1. 10 targets, 6 receptions. The problem is getting 21 yards, but in PPR, this is king, so you get 6 points just because of the catches alone. And don't let this number 4 fool you. The Cowboys really didn't have to pass the ball a whole lot to take care of business against the New York Giants week 1. Finally, keeping your eye on the Mark Andrews news, Isaiah Likely could be a play for us against Cincinnati, who does struggle at times against the tight end. But more importantly, I'm going to be looking at Luke Musgrave against the Atlanta Falcons. I don't care what anyone says. Year after year, they struggle against running backs who can catch and tight ends who can catch. Luke Musgraves can do that in this Green Bay offense, who does have a couple of injuries they're looking at. Aaron Jones is questionable to play, so there's going to be some receptions and some volume to go around. Last week, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 50 yards. Again, going to be going up against the Atlanta Falcons, who gave up a number of passes to Hayden Hurst, who finished as tight end 2 on the week. Give me Luke Musgrave for a severe value play. All right, we got to speed things up here. Our studs at the quarterback position. Now, there's a lot of guys that have a lot of green beside them. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, Justin Herbert. The people that I'm going to be looking primarily at, it might be Trevor Lawrence once again going up against this Kansas City defense. I think a lot of people will be playing Mahomes against a Jacksonville defense that's going to give up a ton of points, especially if Travis Kelce is back. But I think personally, I can get that same value from Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence that I can get for Patrick Mahomes at $8,300. Let me save about $1,500 and go into this range. Again, there's a lot to love up here. They're priced up for a reason. I'm not going to sit here and go through every single guy, and I don't want you to think, Bradley, you skipped over Christian McCaffrey. Do you not like him this week? No. But it's obvious that there's good plays. There's just some that are better than others, in my opinion, at this point. With that being said, yes, CMC is a good play. $8,900 is steep, but he seems to crush it every single week. Saquon Barkley, $8,000. He was pulled out pretty quickly of the game script week 1, falling behind the Dallas Cowboys 30-0 before halftime, it felt like. So the volume wasn't really there, but again, he's going to be used in the passing game. He's going to get handoffs. This offensive line is going to get it worked out against the Arizona Cardinals defense that we know is not very good. So I really like what he brings to the table. At $8,000, it is a nice little bit of savings from Christian McCaffrey. If I can get 24 points from Saquon Barkley, I'm extremely happy with that. Again, 100 yards on the ground, a touchdown there, 4 or 5 catches. That puts me around the 21-20 point mark. Bijan Robinson, the Atlanta Falcons are going to run the ball. Head coach there does not care about your fantasy wide receivers. He does not care that you drafted Kyle Pitts. He doesn't care that you want Drake London to be good. He only cares about running the ball down your throat. Talked about our love for Tyler Allgeier. Bijan Robinson, obviously, we're going to love him too. Had a decent amount of rushing attempts, an absolute playmaker with the ball in his hands, and on the plus side, he gets catches out of the backfield. Derrick Henry at $7,400. We got a little bit snake bitten by him last week. It wasn't a terrible game, putting up 13 points, but his usage wasn't there. We mentioned it in the video. There could be a chance that he has a slow start, just as he has in years past, where last year he had 8 points and 8 points week 1 and week 2, very similarly in previous years. If there's a game that he's able to break out, it's going to be against the LA Chargers. They're just not a good run defense. Maybe they've improved. Maybe they'll make me eat my words, but Derrick Henry at $7,400 is a decent play. Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook combined for over 20 points against this Buffalo Bills defense. I don't know if Josh Jacobs can replicate that, but $7,100, I'm surprised to see him priced that low. Travis Etienne getting catches out of the backfield puts him in a really good spot at $6,900. I don't know if he's going to be able to replicate that kind of volume that he did last week, but if it's going to be a shootout against Kansas City, seeing this is extremely encouraging. Here's the next play that I love. It's Joe Mixon. Again, they fell behind extremely quick against the Cleveland Browns, pulling him out of the game script in terms of rushing. He does have some passing upside. It's not huge, but he should be involved back into the run game against the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens held Dameon Pierce to under 10 points last week. I don't think you're going to be able to do that against Joe Mixon. Again, especially if Joe Burrow is a little bit off of his game still, the easiest thing to do is just hand the ball off to Joe Mixon and let him run. Head coach Dan Campbell says they want to get Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit more involved now that he has one game under his belt. Unfortunately, I'm going to stay a little bit more reserved, which means he's probably going to go off for 25 points this week. And the last player I want to talk about is A.J. Dillon, $5,900. Aaron Jones, if he is out, this is a slam dunk smash play. Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard combined for 20 points against this Atlanta Falcons defense week 1, and that was without finding the end zone. If Aaron Jones is out, A.J. Dillon is going to be the absolute workhorse for this team. I expect him to get a huge amount of volume, and at $5,900, I'm getting RB1. Yeah, I'm slapping that in. Again, this isn't our final lineup. This is just kind of from who we've talked about in this video, kind of where our head's at. If you do want a better look at our lineup that we're going to be playing every single week, it's going to be in Patreon. That is down in the description below. Over the years, people have used that as a tip jar just to kind of say thank you for the videos and information, and I appreciate your support of this channel immensely. On that Patreon report, every single Sunday, we'll give you our starting five that usually consist of a quarterback, a running back, 2 wide receivers, and a defense or a tight end that we're looking at. We'll give you a player pool of everyone else that we think we're going to fill our lineup in with. Then we headline it with the Vegas odds, the scoring lines, weather update, injury news, and a lot more, including our player rankings at the quarterback, running back, and wide receiver position. Again, there's a lot to love in the top half of the wide receiver room. Keenan Allen, I think, is in a really good spot. Garrett Wilson, I'm not going to be particularly playing him with Zach Wilson at the helm, especially going up against the Dallas Cowboys defense. Davante Adams going up against Buffalo. I think Buffalo has a little bit of juice. I think they're going to be coming angry off of that New York Jets game. Not really interested in that one. CeeDee Lamb probably going to get Sauce Gardner. Probably going to veer away from it. But hey, if you want to be different, that could be a play. Very interested in Stephon Diggs against the Raiders. Jamar Chase against Baltimore Ravens. Yes, give me that. The game that they just gave up 22 targets to Robert Woods and Nico Collins. I think Jamar Chase could have a big game. Amon-Ra St. Brown, a top 10 wide receiver from week 1, going up against the Seattle Seahawks defense that gave up, 104 catches to Puka Nacua? Yeah, I think Amon-Ra is a great play. I'm going to be focused on Calvin Ridley. I've already taken Trevor Lawrence. I know it's a little bit rinse and repeat from last week, but I do think they're going to be chasing points in this game against Kansas City, especially if Kelsey's ready to go. Lawrence, Ridley, give me that all day. T. Higgins, 8 targets week 1, no catches. It's going to change this week. $6,400 might be the lowest price you get him on the season. Michael Pittman Jr., we mentioned it last week. He's going to be one of the only guys, if not the only person, getting targets from Anthony Richardson if he's able to hit his targets. And last week, 8 receptions, 11 targets, 97 yards, and a touchdown. I could see him replicating that again against a bad Houston defense that just got tore up by Zay Flowers. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin against a bad Chicago Bears defense is definitely in play for me. If I had to pick people up at the top, it would be Diggs, Amon-Ra, then Jamar, then probably T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, Keenan Allen. But luckily, I've already spent too much money and I don't have to worry about that. Now, if you're looking at stacks, I think it relies on Patrick Mahomes having a healthy Travis Kelce. Trevor Lawrence has already made it into the lineup. Joe Burrow, but it's probably going to be a little bit too expensive. Justin Fields, you can probably just run naked. Anthony Richardson with Michael Pittman is an extreme value, as well as Jared Goff with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. Or if you want to be a little ballsy, go with Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, what kind of lineup can we put together with who we've already selected? Keep in mind, I don't love the running backs that we have in there. I just think that they have really good value right now. Maybe we route it out with something like this. The Luke Musgrave saves us money. Travis Kelce, if healthy, we can put him in there. Again, $7,000, a lot of things you can change. Now, the last wide receiver that we have, Isaiah Hodgins against a bad Arizona team. We talked about Nico Collins. We talked about Robert Woods, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Maybe you do want to take Travis Kelce out and look at some of the other options. CeeDee Lamb, I said I don't like it. Davante Adams, don't love it. Tony Pollard in a decent spot. Garrett Wilson, don't like that. But Derrick Henry should be in a better spot. Josh Jacobs in a much better spot, who just got torn up. The Buffalo Bills just got torn up by Breece Hall week 1. Keenan Allen and then DK Metcalf in what Vegas thinks is the second highest scoring game of the slate. Can't say it enough. This isn't a final lineup. Do your own research and play the way that you want to play. Keep in mind, it's all for fun. If you can't afford to lose, you can't afford to play. And just a reminder, before we get out of here, here is your chance to win your Millionaire Maker ticket for week 3. Every week, we just want to know who is going to be the highest scoring player on the slate. Again, that's the main slate from Sunday. Who is going to put up the most points, and give me that whole number. If you're able to identify the correct player and the whole number, one person who correctly guesses it will get that Millionaire Maker ticket paid for by me. We did have a couple guesses that were close last week, but no one nailed it correctly. If you think it's going to be Christian McCaffrey and he's going to put up 32.6 points, put Christian McCaffrey 32 points. I don't need the decimal. Christian McCaffrey 32 points. And one person who correctly guesses it for week 2 will get that ticket for free. Deadline to enter is kickoff on Sunday. I appreciate you watching. Give a thumbs up if you forgot to do it at the beginning of the video. Hopefully the next time that I see you is down in the comments and again in the green this weekend. Y'all take care.